Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hi, Patrick.
Hey,
First time.
it's all right.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us tonight.
thank you for having me.
It's been my third straight week of Tasklist D. Thank y'all for coming tonight. I really do appreciate it. If you missed anything, I've been trying to upload to the YouTube channel fairly quickly. So part 1 and part 2 were there, along with the other book study stuff.
Yeah, this is my first time. I have a question, Patrick.
Yes.
So when we have questions, do you prefer us to type into the chat box or just ask?
Whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter to me, because I'll just
Got
keep on going, and either way, and I'll see the chat thing, or it doesn't matter.
Got it.
Whatever you
Thank
feel
you.
comfortable doing.
Mm. Parameters mean observable factors. Is that right?
Sorry?
Use appropriate parameters. Yeah.
Parameters of schedules of punishment.
Yeah, parameters
Basically,
means what? Okay.
basically, what's the best way to use punishment?
Oh, okay.
Parameters means like, what are the rules?
What
Right.
are the rules? Okay. What are the guidelines?
Nice on these little task list stuff, because it seems a lot quicker to get through so much information versus the book studies. I'm reading the chapter, doing this, then redoing this, and it's been nice. Just giving y'all my disclaimer, everything is recorded, so if you don't want your name or likeness or your video on, that's fine. Just giving you heads up. I don't record. I record actually, so it's available to everybody. We live in different time zones. We live in different parts of the world, and we have different schedules, and that's a big reason why I record them. And I post them to the YouTube channel for the same reasons, just so they're available. I tried the other way, and this is just easier way to go. Just having them all available on YouTube. Just having the content available for all of us. That's just the big reason behind it. With the task list series, I'm not sharing my PowerPoints. Now, you're more than welcome to screenshot anything you like. That's fine. Since I use a lot of material from the BAS Supervisor Guide, out of respect to Kevin, I just don't want to just put it all out there like that. There are several slides also that I pulled from previous book studies. There's a little bit of and other things I've done, so it's a little bit of everything. But you're more than welcome to screenshot. You're more than welcome to do what you think you need to do to get the material. But I'm not posting, just giving y'all heads up. And it's all gonna be on the YouTube channel. It's my name, Patrick Schumacher. That's the channel. There's no flashy title or flashy name. It's just my name. And it has all the book studies, some stuff from work, and then now obviously the task list series. Yeah, there's no big title or flashy thing going on here. But I do appreciate y'all coming to spend the evening with me. Tomorrow night, Todd is going to step in and do some stuff with us. He just passed his exam about 3 weeks ago, and he still wants to kind of help our group out. So that's pretty cool, pretty exciting. I'll wait a few more minutes, try to catch some more people because people are coming in like crazy. Yeah, if you have a question, I'm not an expert. I appreciate the vote of confidence y'all give me, but I'll do the best I can. But we're all here to learn together. If you want to type it or say it or interrupt me, that's fine As long as we get that question answered, all that matters.
Yeah, so you say it will be on YouTube. So like, let's say if my video is on, so it will show. Is that right?
Yeah, your video's on it.
Okay.
There's a chance it
Okay.
won't go.
Mm.
Okay. You got a good little crowd tonight. If you've missed part 1 and part 2, they are recorded and they are available. Okay. I knew Tasklist D was a meatier part of the list when I got started on all this. I just didn't realize how much it would be when I started putting material together for it. So I get a lot of stuff. But it covers a lot of concepts that my supervisor told me to make sure I'm fluent in. So it's been a big target for my small group, and that's why I figured it'd be a good target for us. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We still got a good little bit to go. Not as much as the last time. We're going to leave off. Last week we left off on negative punishment and positive punishment, I think. Basically, I think we kind of reviewed the positive reinforcement, the punishment reinforcement stuff, kind of put that together. Well, now we're going to start tonight on D17. Use appropriate parameters to schedule the punishment. We're going to see the what's a good way to use punishment. Please make sure your microphone is muted. If you do have a question, just feel free to unmute yourself. I hear things and it kind of distracts me a little bit. D17, as I said, appropriate parameters of schedules of reinforcement. I think should have put punishment there, but just like reinforcement, punishment's kind of on the same guidelines. You want to start out with that immediacy. You want to start out with an FR1 CRS schedule. You want that time component. You want to be too late. If you're going to punish someone or you're going to reinforce somebody, you want to have that immediacy right there. There's a big argument in Cooper and behavior lasting change and probably some other circles. The magnitude. We obviously don't want to start high. We obviously don't want to start too low because we can't work our way up. That would just seem kind of silly and probably be against ethics. So we want to start at the lowest, highest threshold, if that makes any sense. You don't want to go too low, but you want to have that lowest magnitude that is effective. Because like I said, you don't want to start too high. That's just unethical. But you don't want to start low and you can't stair step your way back up. I have seen it as a question on a mock exam. It definitely got my attention after I talked about it in one of my small circles, my study group circles. You want to start with the lowest magnitude the client can handle that has effectiveness. Because I repeat, you don't and you can't stair step punishment. Oh, it didn't work here, so let's increase. It's not going to work that way. Schedule of punishment, just like schedule of reinforcement, you want to be on a consistent schedule. I'm assuming here that we're looking at that immediacy, intermediate schedule kind of thing happening here. And of course, if reinforcement's influenced by MOs, more than likely punishment. We have that aversive stimulus that we're kind of on. We don't want to get in trouble, so we watch those things in motion. They have that abative effect. Knowing this, appropriate application must involve consideration of how oh man. Okay. Thank you. I typed this stuff like weeks ago, so I didn't even check it until I go in because I just kept going different parts of the task list. Making effective punishment sufficient magnitude without being too harsh. Like I said, you can't start out really harsh. You have to start at that lowest, most tolerable threshold that's effective. Immediate as possible. You also want to watch out for those unwanted responses. Just like reinforcement, you don't want to be too long and catch the wrong response, catch the wrong behavior. You could be punishing something you want to punish, or you could also, you wait too long, you may be punishing something else. Kind of that, I don't know what I did response. Well, if you punish, really late, they're not going to know what they did because there was no immediacy tied to it. So immediate as possible following an unwanted response. Gotta be quick. Align with the satiation and the deprivation states that are associated with motivating operations. We just want to keep those MOs that remember how important they are. Most interventions that use a punishment procedure begin, like I said earlier, with an FR1, CRF. You want to start that 1 every time. And then, of course, you could fade it out in different schedules, but you still want to be continuous in the beginning. This is appropriate, especially for punishment, in that if there's more of the undesired behavior is punished, the larger the effective decrease in the future behavior. So compare that to reinforcement. I know what I want the learner to do, so if I reinforce it every time they do what I want them to do, I'm going to increase that behavior. Well, let's flip the script and put punishment in there. If I punish them every single time they present that unwanted behavior, that unwanted response, then I'm going to decrease that future behavior. They're going to pick up that learning of that consequence, what I don't want them to do, or what's expected. Remember that behavior set for punishment should be punished at all settings. Otherwise, you risk, another typo, sorry, suppressing behavior in one setting only to see it increase in another, behavior contrast. So just like reinforcement, there's another kind of a comparison there. All settings, you want to generalize. We know that particular unwanted response is not welcome, no matter where it happens. Behavior contrast is also a side effect of multiple schedules of reinforcement. What happens in one schedule, the successive schedule, we have a behavior increase or a decrease. In the way of punishment, if you're really punished really harsh in one setting, like for example, I have a client, I really don't, I'm making this up. He sucks his thumb really a lot, and mom and dad get on him every time. They punish him every time with those reprimands, his harsh tones. Well, he starts to decrease that at home, and we have a contrast at school. Now, all the time at school, he's stuck in his thumb more and more and more. So there's that contrast comes in. We were punished so much in this setting. Think about blended families. At my mom's house, my dad's house. And if I feel punished in one house, or even grandma's house, I get the opportunity to go to grandma's house and, it's all sunshine and rainbows and whatever. But at my house, I always look, I'm in trouble. So I'm punished at my house, or so to speak. But at grandma's house, it's different. There's that contrast right there. But remember, successive schedules for multiple schedules. One schedule, then the next. And in the case of punishment, we punish harsh in one setting or one schedule, then the next. Move everybody around here. Okay. Think about getting a speeding ticket. on a continuous schedule of punishment, you would get pulled over every time. Now, does that really happen in the real world? No, it doesn't. But just in this fictitious, world, every time you went over the speed limit, there's a cop waiting for you every time. Now, what are the chances if you got punished every time you were speeding? Would you decrease your speed in the car? Chances are you probably would, because every single time you would be punished. And then you just start slowing down just to avoid being punished. If this punishment schedule ended, the next time you sped, you might not receive a ticket and your speeding behavior might increase. There's that spontaneous recovery, because you might get in trouble, you might not. And next time you may start increasing. You may start to speed up a little bit. I think of spontaneous recovery in this instance of, I get that speeding ticket and I'm going to slow down in those areas where I got pulled over. And then after a while, I didn't get pulled over. The coast is clear. So I start to speed up a little bit and speed up a little bit. And I'm slowly recovering back to where I was before. If instead you received the punishment of a speeding ticket on an intermittent basis that you couldn't reliably predict, your rate of speeding would remain consistent. So, like I said a minute ago, we don't always get pulled over. We don't always get tickets. It's intermittent. I think we've kind of figured out a system too. If you're 5 over, I don't know if it's true or not, if you're 5 over or whatever. I love the sensor in my wife's car. It slows down and keeps a certain space. So if I'm in an area where I think there might be, I get behind the car in front of me and my car slows down. So I think that car cheats a little bit. All right. D18 talks about extinction. I get kind of confused a little bit because in the Tasklist C, it talks about the unwanted side effects of extinction. And to me, it feels like they're just talking about extinction. And then we talk about it again in D18, but we're still just talking about extinction. I know we've probably heard the candy machine thing all the time, but we want that candy bar, and we always put our money in, and we always got reinforced. That one time we put the $1 in, our candy got stuck and it's like dangling, and we get mad, and we had that extinction burst. For the way I kind of see it is, we're always reinforced. That behavior, that specific target behavior, it's always reinforced. And then something happens and we're not reinforced and we get mad. We have that aggression-induced response, that extinction burst. And we could also have that resistance where we just keep doing what we've done before. Well, the CRF, if I use a continuous schedule of, I guess, punishment in this case, the behavior would decrease because I'm consistently punishing that behavior. I wouldn't have a chance to have spontaneous recovery because I'm always being punished every single response, every single one response. But when if it's intermittent, if it's on a different schedule, where I didn't get punished after the 3rd response or maybe the 10th response, or even stretch out even longer, I don't know when punishment's coming, and I kind of get relaxed back into my old way of doing things. I could see where spontaneous recovery, because an unwanted effect of punishment is returning back to that original state of doing what you did before. So I guess that would make sense at being like spontaneous recovery.
So Mike, can you hear me, Patrick? Okay, so like let's say after the intervention or punishment was over on a fixed ratio 1, so it's over. So if the scale is the speeding is under the variable ratio, so then spontaneous spontaneously recovery, so might happen. So then the rate of the behavior will be like before the
Right.
frequency of the, okay.
Just think about, I don't know if you got a speed ticket before. I have. I slowed down. And then after a while, I recovered back to my original behavior, driving fast, when I wasn't punished. And it's kind of like, I guess you could throw reinforcement in there too. You're getting reinforced again. Reinforcement's back. So your behavior kind of goes back for those wanted behaviors. Your behavior goes back to the original state.
So I was thinking about like, so like speeding ticket makes sense. How about like other behaviors like physical aggression of a learner? So let's say we implemented the punishment procedure. So we punish every time CRF. So then after the aggression was gone, completely gone. So
if I'm going to use punishment, but even with physical aggression, you're going to have some side effects too. They could model us. If we're using, if they're aggressive and we're being aggressive back, they could model us. We could become an aversive stimulus. That's why it's really important also to pair punishment with something else. Because the thing about punishment is you're just punishing. You don't have a replacement behavior. You need one. The best way for that aggression to go away is to have a replacement behavior that's the function. If they're being aggressive to get access to tangible or to escape something, and we create a good replacement behavior, that's a win-win.
Yes, but with the extinction burst, that's where you can have, where you're doing the extinction, you're not reinforcing that behavior. That behavior, the burst is them doing that behavior a little bit more often, but you are still doing the extinction procedure. So you're not reinforcing that behavior. So they're still going to try and get the reinforcement, but they're not going to receive it.
Right, because reinforcement is being withheld. It's being
and that's what makes it the extinction burst, because you're not reinforcing that behavior and they're still trying to get it. So it would be like
thanks, Monica. Does that help you out a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know what extinction burst, but yeah, you said like, yeah, I saw the point. So
but I think, I don't know about you guys, but response blocking, that's punishment. So because it's sensory extinction in a way.
so you say response blocking is a punishment?
Because they're still doing the behavior. So I'm gonna have to,
because I think of response blocking as sensory extinction in a way.
Yeah, maybe extinction. Yeah.
in my notes, it says response blocking is different from extinction.
I'm thinking too hard. But obviously,
well, what you're doing is really helping me clarify my thinking. So thank you.
So I guess we shouldn't have any problems on extinction tonight. Extinction, your reinforcements being withheld, and we had that burst because we've been reinforced in the future. Like she said, that magnitude increases, the intensity does, because it's always been reinforced. So why should I stop doing that? I always think of one of my clients that cries. I deal with preschoolers a lot. They cry. Crying, it works. I cry, I get the object or whatever it is. And then in a school setting, I cry and I not necessarily get the same payoff. Or if I come in and I'm really not going to reinforce crying, then I have long bursts, and the ugly cries with the tears and all the puppy dog eyes and all that. And I'm reinforcing every other behavior that I like, but I'm not reinforcing that cry. I think a while back in the BALC study, I looked at plan ignoring versus extinction. To extinction, you're looking for that one behavior that you're putting on extinction. You're pulling reinforcement from that one behavior. Plan ignoring, you're just every bit, all of it. You're backing out, all of it.
And it could be more, it can be more than the one behavior.
Right.
It's just completely ignore. It's basically the person is non-existent for that period of time.
Yeah. I don't see how that's too effective, but a lot of people go to it.
I think there's ethical reasons that that shouldn't be done. I'm with Penny on that. However,
Well, it's just like the exclusionary timeout, putting kids in the hallway or the room. Who's watching the child? You know, are we de-escalating anything? No, or are we just sending away? That's a whole conversation right there on its own.
yes, it is.
I learned that from a teacher when I was learning how to be an elementary teacher. That was her big deal, was you're not solving problems by putting kids in the hallway. And she's right. She's absolutely right. Resistance to extinction can be affected by intermittent schedules. The thinner the schedule, the greater the resistance. Variable schedules, which are more resistant than fixed. Strong establishing operation for a withheld reinforcer. Like you just said, we're always being reinforced. There's a strong MO. I want that reinforcement. So that's going to in turn create that strong resistance. The number, the magnitude, and the quality of the reinforcer. When we think of magnitude, we're not thinking of an intensity of that reinforcer. We're also looking at the time spent with it, the quality of it, how much that learner enjoys it. I mean, there's a tie to that reinforcer. There's no real intensity part when it comes to magnitude. BDS had a great way of looking at it. I can't remember. That's why I want to say time, and I want to say how much you've been with that reinforcer.
Yeah, there's, I'm doing that. I just did that the other day, and there's a mathematical formula for finding out what it is. And don't ask me because I can't remember.
I
But
tapped out on BDS. I'm doing some other ones that my supervisor gave me, but some like BDS type questions, but I couldn't handle it. It just, I wanted that 100% criterion so bad, and I don't know. It just, I mean, I got my own head, but it wasn't. I got some good stuff out of it when I was just doing the questions and not worried about criterion. But when I started worrying about criterion, I just kind of pulled myself out of the deal. Resistance to extinction is also affected by the number of previous extinction trials. How often have you been exposed to extinction? And the effort required by the response. I think the effort required for the response is a big deal, because the stronger the MO is for that reinforcer and you're being withheld, that strong MO and that effort required in the past, it just can't. I don't know. I can see that in my head. Just can't get the words out, but I can see how the resistance to extinction can be affected by that effort. I brought this slide in just for I forgot I put it in here about the comparing extinction versus planned ignoring. Oftentimes in a lot of literature, they're compared together. And I just wanted us to remember, for me, it wasn't. For some people, it is.
we had to buy it for our school. So we, when I was in my master's program, we had to do BDS modules alongside other assignments. And by the time I was done, we had like 64% something to criterion. The nice thing about it is when you're all done your program, you can ask them and they will give you a new account so you can start from fresh. The hard thing about it though is that 100% criterion, unlike the exam where you have like a back button where you're like, oh no, this is the right answer, with the BDS modules, you don't have it. So
hard for our master's program, but I got lucky since I was a certificate person, so it wasn't required for graduation. But I still wanted to do it, so I got it, and I worked through a lot of it. But since it wasn't a requirement, it slowed me down. But it didn't work with my learning style. The things I've done here in the evenings with you guys, and the different things I've done to dig into the material, has helped me out more. But I like it as a supplemental thing where I get different tidbits I never knew before and I find very interesting. Because it does look at some concepts differently that I'm not saying that I never would have thought of before, but it kind of peels the onion pretty tough on some things.
Yes, and it has really good explanations for like when you go to answer a question, you can look at the hint and it'll explain something about the question so that it can help you. It doesn't always give you the exact answer, but it is really good in that way. And that's what I use it for. I use it for a learning tool, but I haven't been able to do it to 100% criterion yet. That may change, but yet I haven't.
So let's talk about extinction versus plan ignoring. I think we already did that. Extinction, we're withholding reinforcement for that unwanted. I think problem behavior came out of the visual ABA book. Both definitions actually did, to be honest with you. But I think it could be that undesired, that unwanted response as well, because not everything's a problem. Everything can be perceived good or bad depending on your outlook or even the social context. If reinforcement is not given for that behavior or that particular behavior, then the client will stop engaging in that behavior. Often used to eliminate problem behaviors. I put the K machine idea there because we use that in my coursework and it just stuck with me. I think another example for me would be the interstate here by the house. Most days you can get to where you're going, point A to point B, my town to the next town, and they like to do a lot of road construction on that little stretch. And I get a little frustrated because I'm always reinforced going from here to there. And some days, not so much. Some days you can get stuck behind for 20, 30 minutes, and it's only 20 minutes to the next town. So, I do have my little extinction burst in the car a little bit sometimes. If I'm at work, I'm in no hurry. But I'm always the point on that example is I'm always reinforced. I'm always. If you live, Rogue has an example where you live in a tourist community, and throughout the year you have access to the whole town, no traffic, and then summer season hits, bam, and you can't get anywhere. And you get frustrated and you lost your access to reinforcement. But it's one particular behavior, not like planned ignoring where we just ignore everything. We're not choosy, we're not picky, we're just ignoring everything the client's doing. Everything is deemed inappropriate and we're ignoring. Planned ignoring is an intervention strategy designed to decrease students' off-task behaviors by withholding attention. It should only be implemented if the behavior is not harmful to the student or others. Megan Miller I know Penny probably sold it too, and I watched it. Megan Miller had a great podcast about Extinction, the Do Better Collective. It's a game changer. It made me want to talk about the side effects of extinction at work with my daycare providers. This is just me, and I don't know how far this takes us in studying, but I would rather teach skills that promote behaviors I want my clients to perform rather than ignoring and using withholding reinforcement and crossing my fingers, because we're going to have spontaneous recovery. We just are. That's a matter of fact. And if I ignore everything, what am I hoping for? Through osmosis, that the client will just know what they're supposed to do. I ignored you, and you're going to know what I want you to. I don't see that. So that's just my little 2 cents. I think teaching skills, strong replacement skills, that's why, I mean, forget Greg Hanley. That's why Patrick is really excited about the skills-based stuff out there. The PLS and SPT and balance, and I'm sure the list can go on, because it teaches what you want the learner to do. But you need to watch that podcast. It's exceptional. It's a game changer. I think we've given plenty of extinction examples already. Then we've talked about the burst. 19, using combinations of reinforcement and punishment. Like I said earlier, don't really want to use punishment by itself. Thought I saw a question in the chat. Let me move that. The podcast, here's what I did. I typed this in YouTube or search or whatever. Megan Miller, Extinction. And I pull up her deal. I mean, Penny had the exact deal of how to get there. And I put it in one of my presentations for work because I wanted to promote that one too. But great podcast. She's sitting with a special ed teacher, and he's telling you pretty much what's the number one thing they tell special ed teachers to do with problem behavior. Oh, ignore it. And if it's attention, yeah, it decreases. But did we teach anything? I know what I don't like. I know what I don't want. But why can't I promote and teach what I do want? It's a little Patrick soapbox moment there.
Thank you.
All right, our ethical code, section 4.0b, says that reinforcement is always used in addition with punishment procedures. Like I said earlier, we're not going to really dive into punishment by itself. We need to pair it with something, and we're probably going to pair it with reinforcement. There's a reason why reinforcement it's mentioned a lot, and it's probably one of the most highly researched topics in our field. There's a reason why we go to it. We just need to convince our contingency managers of its effectiveness. That seems to be a harder battle, showing the effectiveness to our people we serve. But it's always best to practice to include reinforcement when using extinction. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in the clinic, I got a crash course in DRA and extinction. Got a crash course. I withheld what I didn't like, and I taught another way of doing it that served the same function. And I think that DRA and extinction are commonly paired together. And I could be wrong, but I think they're paired a lot together. NCR is also very effective with attention-seeking behaviors. You create that satiation, and you're kind of going for an abolishing operation. If they want attention, by golly, every 20 seconds to a minute, we're going to feed that attention. We're going to feed it. And they're going to get so much of it, they're going to be satiated, and it just creates an abolishing operation, and it decreases. Penny actually gave me the light bulb moment on that one, because I just thought NCR it's always on that schedule. And then when I started to look in, when she discussed why, it just made more sense. It's like eating a ton of hamburgers. You're going to get tired of them eventually. You got what you wanted, and you're going to get tired of them eventually. DRO, DRA, DRI, when used in conjunction with either punishment or extinction. Those differential reinforcement strategies are great to pair with punishment and extinction. Differential reinforcement always puts that unwanted response on extinction anyways, because differential reinforcement's a lot like shaping. We're going to reinforce what we do want, and we're going to put on extinction what we don't want. So those are great to pair with extinction. And even with punishment, if you do punishment alone, you're not promoting a replacement behavior. But if you do punishment with reinforcement, now I have a replacement behavior. Now I have a behavior I can reinforce and then put that, and I won't have to punish as much. An example from BAS was when a student tantrums to avoid being in the classroom, an intervention might be offered to offer breaks every 15 minutes. Teach and reinforce asking for help or asking to leave, DRA procedure, and either ignore the tantrums, extinction, should they occur, or implement an overcorrection for wasted time, wasted during a tantrum, punishment. So this example has a little bit of everything. I punished, I overcorrected for the time you wasted. I ignored, I can ignore the tantrums, extinction. I could teach an alternative response, DRA, or I can just offer breaks every 15 minutes. My personal soapbox spiel with the break card is, if they don't know what a break card is, and that visual looks like a different language, let's teach it first. Let's teach what the break card is and how it can serve the function of a break. And then once we get those breaks in, we need to increase the time between breaks and teach some tolerance also.
And that's where FCT comes in.
Right. Because I just gotta be careful too, because you don't want to just, here's my break card, I don't want to work, I don't have to work. And you still need that work done. D20, use response independent time-based schedules of reinforcement, such as NCR. And I think we're getting close to the end of the journey here. NCR is considered an antecedent intervention. Like I said earlier, you're putting like attention. They want attention, so we're going to give them attention every minute, and we're just going to just overflow them with attention. So they're going to become satiated. We're good. You can leave me alone now. I'm good. You gave me plenty of attention, and it creates that abative effect, which leads to an abolishing operation. Powerful stuff here. Reinforces provide on a time-based schedule independent of the individual's behavior. When we use a schedule of reinforcement, that behavior triggers reinforcement. But in this case, it doesn't matter. There's no earning reinforcement. It's going to happen. It just pops up every how many minutes or whatever. Forgot where I was at. When done successfully, it will function as an abolishing operation, like I just said. That satiation will reduce because they're good. They got all of what they needed. Whether NCR is used on a fixed or interval schedule, its implementation is independent of the actual response or responses of the client. Sometimes inappropriate behavior may be unintentionally reinforced as the time interval ends. And a client receives reinforcement immediately after engaging in target behavior. What they're saying right there is we do the time-based, our minutes up, and they engage in a problem behavior. We're not going to reinforce right there. We're going to wait. So yes, it is time-based, but you need to be careful you're not reinforcing the wrong behavior. Okay. However, NCR mostly decreases the desire to engage in the target behavior and increases the total amount of reinforcement in the environment. And then I think differential reinforcement's the closer for Tasklist D. Like I said earlier, we're reinforcing the behavior we want to occur. If you look at DRI, you're reinforcing an incompatible behavior, and you're putting on extinction the unwanted response.
Patrick, isn't DRO, it's any other behavior, not just a specific behavior, but It's any other behavior other than the behavior that you're wanting to get rid of.
I think so. When it comes to mock questions, I just look for if they're not specific on a certain behavior, if it's kind of ambiguous, then it's every other behavior. Because you're right, you're reinforcing anything else except that behavior. And then DRI is we're going to reinforce that specific alternative.
Right, the one that they can't do. So if the behavior that they're doing is screaming, they can't scream and blow bubbles or talk at the same time. So it's something that's completely unable to perform.
Right. I just noticed with test question with mock questions help me out is when I see when they give me a specific alternative, it's probably DRI. If they don't give me a specific alternative, Johnny can do anything other than engage in that response, then I'm looking at DRO.
Yeah, Patrick, I thought DRO and also it's on the time schedule too, like every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes. Is that right?
I don't think DR is on a time schedule. Monica?
Yeah, I think
It is.
yeah.
I think so. Let me just double check. I've got notes here.
I'm not 100% right. I'm not saying I'm the expert, but I know that some DR different reinforcements on a ratio and some on an interval schedules.
Also, for
So they can, but at first, like if you're doing, you could do a DRO on like almost a continuous basis and then thin the schedule out. So I think that
They were in the BLA chapter on the ratios and the interval schedules of reinforcement. I thought it was very intriguing.
I'm going to double check here.
yeah, I'll look too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know. And for non-contingent reinforcement, it has to be a fixed schedule. How about a variable schedule? It's okay too, right?
Non-contingent reinforcement, I think it can be either fixed or interval schedule.
No, how about variable? Fixed interval, fixed ratio. How about can it be variable interval too?
I think so.
Okay. 184.
I am still looking, guys. Okay, so for DRO, it is the absence of behavior of that behavior or
DRO and a momentary, and which is like
so
a set time.
Yeah.
They do a behavior other than the desired.
yeah, so
If the behavior is not, the unwanted response isn't occurring, then you reinforce. And the fix would be during that time. And then you reinforce. That's the only time-based part. Yeah, that does make sense. I guess that would be time because you're using that interval.
But again, I could be like,
I've never heard of the ratio, but it does make sense. So many responses in a row, but the time bit, because you're trying to increase the IRT of, I don't know, never mind.
yeah, for me, I was really struggling with, like, I understood what the FR, like the different ratios and stuff like that were, and the schedules of reinforcement, but I was getting mixed up between the schedules of reinforcement and then the fixed time and variable time.
Oh, okay.
Fixed time can be very confusing because fixed time it's a set time, no matter what, and
they get whatever.
Contingent. It's not so much contingent on that. It's going to.
They don't have to have the correct response. So in 1 minute, they get reinforcement regardless.
Your pay is not contingent on any behavior. Every 2 weeks or 1 month, you are getting paid. No matter.
It'll be a fixed time. Is that right? It's called fixed
Yes.
time. Oh, okay.
Yes.
It does not matter how I behave or how I earned it. Every 15th of the
Fixed
month, I get paid.
response.
Versus,
Okay, can you give me an example of fixed interval, the first response after? Can you give me a real life?
60 minutes is up. Your first response to get reinforced by getting to leave. Oh,
Yeah, and you're going to be waiting in your chair, and that's where you're like, that's the post reinforcement pause where.
Is other behaviors. Other mock question tip I picked up on is if they don't give you a specific behavior they want you to do, chances are it's other behaviors. If they give you a specific alternative behavior, it's going to be incompatible. They give you that specific behavior.
DRL, DRH.
Example, let me move our faces here. Example for DRO would be a girl who picked the skin of her palm, was given a token. This is from BAS. I didn't make this one up. I don't even play Candy Crush. She's good for one. A girl who picked the skin of her palm is given a token. She's good for 1 minute of Candy Crush for every 12 minutes that she doesn't pick her palm. So every time she doesn't do the picking, she gets reinforced with a token. We're reinforcing anything else except skin picking here of her palm. If you saw us on a test question, since we didn't give a specific alternative, we're going to reinforce anything else except picking her palm. This is going to be BRO. If we said if we're going to reinforce her rubbing her hands together every time she wants to pick her palm, then it's incompatible. You can't pick your palm and rub your hands together. And it's more specific.
So DRL and DRH. I'm gonna talk.
Ebony, what's your question? Can you whole interval that the DRO interval one, the FM? Well, every 12 minutes, yeah, that would be every 12 minutes would be the fixed moment, the fixed interval, the FM. If we said if a timer went off at every 12 minutes and she wasn't picking her palms every 12 minutes, that would be your momentary DRO because she did something other than that. But yeah. It's been a long day, guys. So if my brain's starting to shut off a little bit, I'm sorry.
You're doing good.
Guidelines for using DRO. Time interval is usually set when which reinforces contingent on the target behavior not being observed. So I guess there it is, our time component. The time set, particular moments can be used instead of a time interval, just like momentary time sampling. That helps me remember the momentary and the fixed, the whole interval versus at the end of the interval. The initial time interval should be set as less frequently the target behavior occurs. So you want to go under the time it occurs so we can reinforce the non-occurrence. Be careful not to reinforce other inappropriate behaviors accidentally. That's a big problem with DRO. You can do anything else but that behavior, but we still could be reinforcing things we don't want because they didn't fall in the category of that one behavior. Gradually increase the interval when the problem behavior begins to decrease. Decrease interval in settings or times when the target behavior is more of a problem. And extend, I can't move our thing here. Try to move our pictures. Extend DRO to other settings and times of day after problem behavior is reduced. Reset the interval the target behavior occurs during the interval, and provide reinforcement when the target behavior does not occur during the interval. I basically just spit out what BAS put for guidelines, or this came from the chapter. This came from BALC, Behavior Analysis for Lesson Change, because this looks very familiar. Alternative behaviors. This is, I kind of think of it as the replacement behavior reinforcer. We're going to give a functional alternative. We don't like what he's doing. We don't like the behavior Johnny's doing. So we're going to do a functional replacement. If a student is constantly bugging the fire out of you and doing this all the time, then or he's pushing you to get your attention, then we're going to teach a DRI, an alternative behavior, maybe touching our shoulder with an appropriate phrase. Reinforcement of the alternative behavior is usually begun with a CRF and faded. We're going to reinforce every time, and then we're going to start to fade it out. Probably the most common differential reinforcement technique, and often paired with extinction. Well, they all are, because we're putting all of our behavior on extinction that we don't want, and we're hitting the one we want to get. A student is offered both praise and attention when saying excuse me and waiting for a response. If they say excuse me, we're going to praise it. If they give some smart aleck response or bust their way through the line, that's obviously behavior we want to put on notice. DRI, I think I shared a lot of this a little bit ago. You cannot do two things at the same time. I did this with one of my clients recently. He likes to kind of push the guy in front of him a little bit in line when they're going to the restroom. So we gave him a Kleenex box and a special job to go with it. Can't push somebody if you're carrying a box. Can't push someone if you have a job in the hallway. And it reduced. It reduced. DRI is that incompatible behavior. Like I said at the bottom, you cannot do two things at the same time. Can't do it. Can't do it. I'm going to slide by this. Get to the low rates. Low rates and high rates have a lot in common. We're trying to either increase the IRT or we're trying to decrease the IRT. And with DRL, we're trying to lower the response of a behavior. So think of a behavior that you want to reduce the frequency of. If Johnny's constantly raising his hand like this, then you're probably going to want to reduce that with the lower rate. If he's not ever raising his hand and you want to increase responding, then we're looking at DRH. We want that hand up, the desired behavior. We're not trying to extinguish, we're just trying to reduce. Or with the case of DRH, we're trying to increase. A student I know asked too many questions. Like I said, I have a question, I have a question, I have a question. So we're going to observe the rate of other students, their typical pace, create a criterion, a target, and then we're going to look for that rate. We're going to try to lower it. We do have a target criterion with DRL because we have that number we want to lower. With DRD, we're just trying to reduce it. With DRL, we're trying to hit the target or go below. DRH is, like I said, kind of the opposite of DRL. We do have different subtypes of DRL, DRH. Space responding, interval. I want to say there's a third one. I can't top of my head think of it. Space responding, there's an interval. Interval is always a popular favorite because you're trying to increase that interval or decrease that interval, which is basically your IRT. I want to say there's a third one. Rogue has a great graphic
I'll
organizer.
look it up.
Rogue has a fantastic graphic organizer that really kind of put these things to rest for me. But like I said, DRH, think of a behavior you want to increase. I can think of a lot of things I want to decrease, but think of something you want to increase. Question here was the example from BAS was a student who never asks questions or never talks to anybody. You want to increase that social responding, then you probably have a DRH. You want to set that criterion and start to increase it. That's going to drive me crazy because I know it's probably my folder on the table. DRD, we're just trying to reduce it. If we have a person who smokes cigarettes and we're trying to reduce that behavior, we would do a DRD because we just want to reduce those behaviors in a gradual fashion. A graph of successful treatment looks like changing criterion, and that successive targets for reduction are made until it's significantly reduced or eliminated. The big difference between DRL and DRD is, like I said, DRL has that target criterion we're trying to hit or go below, and DRD, which is we have our successive targets, but we're trying to eliminate drastically. Kevin chews his lip when working for 30 minutes per hour. In order to reduce this rate, Kevin has decided to offer himself reinforcement for chewing his lip no more than 25 minutes per hour. Once accomplished, he sets the new lower criterion. So we do have a criterion element here, but we're also trying to lower it. I know DRL, DRD kind of had that sameness with that criterion part, but DRL has your interval, space responding, and that third one. And I'll think about where we're dealing with the IRT, either we're trying to increase it because we're trying to lower the response, or in the case of DRH, we're trying to decrease it to increase the response.
The other way that you can think of it is for a DRL, if this is where your criterion is, it has to be at or below. And so when you're doing that, that means that you have to increase the IRT time because that stretches out the number of responses. So you get less. Whereas with DRH, if this is your criterion, it's anything here and above. So if you have 10, it can be 10 or 15 or 20. And that's where you've got to decrease the IRT time because you want it to happen more often.
That's great. I like that. That's a lot. This great example. All right. Well, thank you all for motoring with me on Tasklist D. I like tonight. I like when we have conversations going on because I'm still trying to figure some stuff out, just much like you guys are. And talking it out makes a big difference. It really, really does.
Your videos really have helped me, I have to tell you. They've really helped me get some things straight in my head. So I appreciate the time that you put into this, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was. I saw a thing when I first. I think it was a semester into my coursework, and I saw a thing on ABA study group. The best way to help me study was to do classes online. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that. I used to teach, and I learned more of my content because I couldn't fake it. And this has really helped a ton. So I always try to promote everyone. If y'all want to step up on a topic you're struggling with, or it's better when you struggle with it, to be honest with you. I've done better. Is this a study group for those who are going to sit? Yeah, I'm going to sit. Most of us in here are studying.
Okay. Okay. So
I haven't passed. I still have 190 hours to go. So
oh yeah, soon you'll be here. So
but,
they have it every month, the BCBA exam.
yeah,
Okay.
I know. I will give y'all
Yes, they
heads
do.
up.
I took the exam once and I did not pass. I came close, but I didn't pass. But DRH and DRL are on the exam. So you got to know it.
Okay. Okay. So how often do y'all meet? Do we meet? This is
I
my
meet
first
every
time.
Monday. I quit doing the Tuesday night thing, but I have a thing tomorrow night. One of my study friends, y'all are my study friends, but one of our admins he's gonna do a session tomorrow night.
Todd.
Todd, most of
What is the subject, Patrick?
what's that?
What was the subject?
I think discontinuous and continuous measurement.